Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, pessoal. Danilo Brizola aqui, do Empreendedor Produtivo. E hoje eu tenho o prazer de estar aqui com duas pessoas e para mim, duas lendas aí da produtividade. Bia Kunze, a garota sem fio, e o David Allen, criador, pai da metodologia GTD. Para mim é um prazer muito grande ter os dois aqui nessa conversa de hoje no Empreendedor Produtivo. E a gente vai, a Bia e eu, a Bia, ela gentilmente aceitou o convite de estar comigo nessa entrevista com o David Allen. A gente vai conversar um pouco com ele, que, como eu já falei, criador da metodologia GTD. Vamos aprender um pouco aqui sobre como tudo começou, como começou o GTD e como que a gente pode ter aí mais produtividade com essa metodologia, ouvindo direto de quem é o criador. So, Mr. David Allen, thank you so much for joining us. So, for us, it's a pleasure having you in our show. And yeah, so I would like you to introduce yourself to the ones that don't know you, especially in the productivity area.
Sure, and thanks for the invitation, Dan. It'd be nice to meet you and see you.
I'm very glad to be here with you too.
Well, you know, my story is there's a long one, but I'll give you a very short version of it. 35 years ago, I began my own consulting practice. Saw my life was getting more complex, and I happened to love really clear space in my head. You know, meditation practices, martial arts practices, and so forth had trained me that clear space was the most productive place to operate from. But as my life got more complex and I was moving up in my profession, I found that messed up clear space, you know, pretty easily. So I got hungry for myself just for the techniques that would let me keep clear, even while I managed a complex world. And so I discovered techniques that work for myself, gave me more control, more focus, more space in my head to focus on meaningful stuff. And then I turned around in my consulting practice and began to use these techniques with my clients, and it turned out it produced the same result. More control, more focus, more clarity, less stress. So that became a key part of just how I engaged with you know, the people I was working with. But then a head of human resources in a big corporation saw what I was doing, and they said, wow, this looks great stuff. We need this in our whole company. Could you design a training around this so that we could reach a lot of people instead of just one-on-one? So I said, sure, I'll do what I can. So I worked with his team to design a pilot program, 2-day personal productivity seminar for executives and managers that we implemented over a year's period of time for 1,000 of them. And it worked really well. So I found myself thrust into the corporate training world. And then since then, have both refined this methodology as a set of best practices. I still kept doing a lot of one-on-one work, but it turned more into coaching executives in the big companies and the large companies that were, you know, that were using my stuff as a training program. So since then, I've spent literally thousands of hours one-on-one with some of the busiest and brightest and best folks on the planet, actually implementing this methodology with them personally. And we've had hundreds of thousands of people now go through our Getting Things Done or GTD trainings around the world. And now we have franchises, including Brazil. We have partners that are delivering, you know, this methodology in both public trainings as well as in-house trainings, as well as coaching. So that's a very short version of a very long story.
Okay, I can't imagine. I can't imagine. So, and one of the things is that you are a black belt in karate, right?
Yes, I was. I haven't trained in years, but I did get a black belt in my 20s.
And do you think that the martial art like helped you to shape all the methodology? Because we can see a little bit of the martial art on the methodology, right?
Well, the methodology itself is a martial art. You know,
yes, definitely. Yeah.
Martial has a lot to do with dealing with incoming stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How do I manage somebody attacking me, 4 people jumping on me in a dark alley, or how do I engage with somebody that wants to take advantage of me? And in a way, you know, we're all getting jumped in the dark alley by 1,000 emails, or
yes, definitely
more to do than we have time to do. And so, you know, trying to learn how to navigate all of that. It's very similar in a way to a martial art, because it has a lot to do with being ready for surprise, being in a clear space, making sure that you're kind of ready for anything, which is my second book that I wrote. So that you're, you know, if 4 people jump you in a dark alley, you do not want 2,000 unprocessed emails hanging in somehow in your head.
Definitely.
You need to be clear. And so
Exactly.
how do I get
You have
clear?
to focus on that. You have to
Sure.
focus on the attacker, right?
Well, it's not just martial arts. I mean, any kind of a sport or any kind of an artistic endeavor, you need to be clear, you know, before you perform, before you do whatever you're going to do. So, you know, you'll see a lot of athletes before they go perform stretching and relaxing because that lets them perform better.
Definitely.
Get rid of the stress. So in the same way, you know, very similarly, you know, the more that you can stay relaxed, let your brain rest and be ready to be focused, put your attention fully on whatever you want to put your attention on.
Definitely.
That's the most productive state to operate from.
Yes, yes. This is one thing that I definitely didn't think about. And right now I'm thinking this is totally true because in order to you to perform better, you have to be focused, really focused, right?
Yeah. But in order to really focus, you need to relax.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
It's a strange combination that the more you're able to relax, the more you're able to be, you know, rigorous in terms of your focus.
And how was the process to create the methodology? I know that you started you started with a group, right? In a company doing a executive program, and how did you start, like with all these steps?
Well, I uncovered the steps just really working one-on-one in my consulting practice.
Mm-hmm.
So those steps, you know, the training that I designed was how do I take those steps and put it into an educational format.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, the basics of this I learned 35 years ago. I had 2 or 3 mentors that taught me pieces of this. And then I began to just work it myself to say, okay, why does that work? And I just basically uncovered stuff that works that we all do. I didn't really make anything up. I really just recognized what it is we do when things really work.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there's a sort of fundamental 5-step process in GTD where you capture, you clarify, you organize, you reflect, and you engage. And that's actually how you get your kitchen under control. It's how you get a desk under control. It's how you get a meeting under control. Is you identify what's off, what's not on cruise control, what has your attention in the kitchen or on your desk or in your head. Then you clarify, well, what exactly is that? Is that something I'm going to do something about? Does it belong where it is? Is it trash? Is it reference material? What is it? That's the clarify step. And then once you decide what this stuff really is, then you put it where it goes. You put spices where spices go. You put dirty dishes in the dishwasher. You put bad food in the garbage. So you basically then organize based upon how you've thought about what this stuff is that has your attention. And then you step back and reflect. You kind of look at the whole thing and say, okay, when are guests coming over and what am I going to cook? And then you go to the refrigerator and pull out butter and melt it. So the 5 steps are something we all do. Most people are just not that conscious about them. But each one of those steps actually has its own best practices and worst practices. And that's not just one thing. You don't just go get organized. You know, a lot of people's organization is just rearranging incomplete piles of unclear stuff, which doesn't help at all.
Yes.
So, you know, what I uncovered is what it is that you need to clarify, what it is you need to gather, what it is you need to identify first, make the right decisions about what it means. Then you can create an organizational structure that makes sense.
Definitely. This is awesome. This is really good and so simple. And a lot of people try to, you know, to explain this in a more complex way. And in the end, it's really simple. Because when you have like something complex in our mind, our brain tends to don't do that, you know, when we have something complex. And when you have this explanation, exactly, yeah, procrastinate. Our brain tends to procrastinate when the things are complex to figure out. And when you have this like really easy approach, it's totally easy. It's easier to like start thinking in GTD as a really simple methodology. So this is really good. This was an explanation really well done. So So Bia, do you have some other questions? So I have a bunch of
Yeah, sure.
questions here, but yeah, let's start.
As you may suspect, my questions are about mobile devices.
Okay, yeah. So just to let you know, Bia
Okay.
is the one, like, is the girl for mobile devices in Brazil. So she's very she engaged with mobile device since, I don't know, you can tell Bia your past to David just in a few minutes.
Well, I've been working with mobile devices since, oh my God, 18 years ago I began, and then I've been working with social media and blogging and media, TV, radio. I began with my dental practice with mobile devices to handle with my patients and documents and all that, a lot of things that dentists deal with every day. And small pieces of things. We tend to be kind of organized because of these small things. And I always been trying to organize myself with my work and daily life to put them together. And mobile devices always help me to put them through and deal at the same time with all those demands. And I'm very curious about your mobile devices, Mr. Allen. I remember a lot of years ago, I don't remember exactly, with the first edition, I think, of GTD, your book, and I saw a video about you dealing with a BlackBerry. I'd like to know about your story with your mobile devices and how they are helping you now to deal with your methodology.
Well, my first mobile device was really, well, of course, a mobile phone, back when they weighed, 2 kilos and they were huge monsters.
Yeah.
Interestingly, because as soon as the mobile phone came out, even back then when in our trainings, we were using a paper planner. We were using a Danish paper planner. And that's what gave me the inspiration to create a separate list called calls to make, because if you were out and you actually had a phone with you, that's the only work you could do if you wanted to do work at all. And so instead of just having, one list of next actions, I had all my next actions, but except my phone calls, and my phone calls were on a separate list because it made a lot more sense. If I was out and about, all I could do was make a call. So I didn't want to have to find calls in, a list of 100 things. Just give me a list of the calls I need to make. So it was actually a mobile device that started me down the path of really understanding that once you've clarified the next action on things that have your attention, most people have over 100. And so you could put them on one list, but it helped, again, as our life became more mobile, it helped to start to sort those action reminders in appropriate lists. So that was really my first experience with it. And then when the Palm Pilot came out, you guys aren't old enough to remember the Palm Pilot, but there was something called the Palm Pilot, which was a fabulous tool.
Remember.
It was a fabulous tool. One of the best list managers ever.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's when I gave up a paper planner, was because the Palm was great. The ergonomics were wonderful. I mean, the guy who invented it spent a lot of time, carving a piece of wood that had to be just the right shape and just the right size. And then he developed the graffiti for it, which was wonderful. Unfortunately, it kind of disappeared because I'd still use it if it was if it was around. No, it was great, and it had a very simple, back then in my PC world, it had a very simple application on the desktop that you could use that then transferred that translated right to the mobile device. So then you could walk around with your lists of all the different things, and it made it the Palm made it easy to be able to sort things into various categories. Made it very easy to do that and very easy to get to. So, since then, if you fast forward right now, I've got an iPhone and I've got an iPad, and, those all translate, all of my digital stuff into those environments, but I don't work on those. I'm not a millennial where I actually sit down and work on my phone. It's too small. It doesn't have the visual real estate that I like to have. I mean, I'm talking to you right now with my Thunderbolt, screen.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I like the real estate. It's much easier to work to be able to flip back and forth, you know, in those different kind of things. But yeah, it's just sort of a given, you know, that, yeah, it's really nice to be able to have those lists. Because when I go out and about for, you know, usually when I go out, I have an errands list, so I can look at my phone and just remember what all the errands are that I need to run. And obviously, you know, having a smartphone that has telephone and address and, you know, all that good stuff, and GPS, you know, all those are just really, you know, highly useful things and highly productive. But it's not, I would say it's not really a big deal. Most of my thinking, most of my planning, most of my organizing all happens at my desktop because it's a better place to do it with that kind of real estate.
Okay. And do you use some specific tool, some specific software, or you use like the notes from Mac or something like that?
Yeah, we still use, you know, Lotus Notes, IBM Notes now. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I have a friend of mine who was my chief technology guy for over 10 years, designed and developed an overlay application into Lotus Notes that, you know, makes it a lot easier to do the GTD process. But basically all you need are lists. So anything that does lists. So I just have my own list manager there. So I just use the task function inside of IBM Notes, you know, to manage my list. And then all that translates to my mobile devices if I need them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mr. Allen, the amount of paper in your daily use has decreased or increased?
Oh, it's decreased tremendously, sure. Well, because scanning and being able to save PDF files, and, you know, a lot of the world is now just going digital in that way. I have one, you know, paper-based file drawer instead of 4. So, but I still have paper that I still need. You know, there's still documents and things like that.
Oh, we can't get rid of them.
Yeah,
I don't think you can get rid of them. You'll have fewer and fewer of them, but you know, until your passport and until money are all digital, you're still going to need physical, you know, way to organize physical stuff.
So yeah.
Mr. Allen, what would you say to these younger generations? They don't make phone calls anymore, and their piles are not of paper, but are made of social media.
Yeah.
They really struggle with that. It's a serious problem. How has GTD, how can GTD help these younger people to deal with social media?
Well, social media is, you know, social media is nothing more than the bulletin board and the laundromat, right? I don't know if you guys ever do your laundry and there's a bulletin board and it's like bike for sale and missing cat, you know, could you find my cat, and, you know, apartment to rent or room to share, you know. So that was social media back then. Not only that, I'm old enough to remember yellow pages, phone books with yellow pages, you know, and the internet's just a big yellow pages. That's all it is. So there's no fundamental difference in terms of what the nature is of this stuff that we can get wrapped around. It's just that there's so much of it and it's so easily available and it's highly addictive. So that makes that a problem. But it's only a problem if you're missing something. If you don't like 5,000 WhatsApps on your phone, you know, what's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that unless there's something wrong with it. The something wrong with it may be if there's stuff embedded in there that you need to do something about. You've made some commitment about any of those things that you haven't really identified or are separated out from all that stuff. Otherwise, it's just noise.
Yes,
music,
definitely.
However you want to.
I guess what they struggle more is they rush to answer things immediately. That's a real need they feel every day, and
Sure.
this
FOMO.
causes a lot of stress.
It's FOMO, fear of missing out.
Oh yeah,
it's really the stress of opportunity. All you have to do is light a fire to your building, and I guarantee you they won't be on their smartphone. So if you're in a crisis, you give all that up. You know, that's why people, you know, crisis is kind of healthy for people. They relax more because it forces them to focus. But it's the stress of opportunity. How many things could you or I how many things could the three of us be doing right now instead of talking to each other? How many things could we be surfing the web about that could maybe add value or fun or interest to our lives? Oh, come on. It's like an infinite opportunity, you know, to be able to do that. So, you know, the good news about it is because it is so potentially overwhelming, it forces people to really get clear about what's important. what matters. See,
Exactly.
I'm, you know, I've got 1.2 million followers on Twitter, but I use Twitter like a cocktail party. I wander in, I wander out. I love to check Instagram in the morning when I'm having coffee, you know, but there's no big deal. It's just fun. It's like a cocktail party. I wander in, I wander out, you know, so I don't have any commitments about any of that. But if somebody does, again, it can be highly addictive.
Definitely, yeah, and I think this is one of the distractions. Like social media today is one of the distractions that that the people right now they can't put this stuff done because of social media. They are, like you said, they are addicted because they are committed with the social media, and they are thinking that if they are not in social media, they are missing something, and
Yeah.
it's not true, right?
Well,
The lifestyle they show online sometimes is the most important aspect of their lives today.
Mm-hmm.
no, it may be. Nothing wrong with that. I don't make any judgments about that. If that's what they want their life to be, hey,
I
have
keep
fun.
telling them because
Live
I'm
and learn.
40 right now. I sure can deal with that. I don't think it's so important as for 18 years old people, and they have different demands from us. I think we are more mature to deal with work and social life and family life, but they don't. They mix it up with one thing, and that's I think that's what's causing a lot of stress to them. They are very anxious. They can't wait for things anymore. Some new series on Netflix or new photos from their music star or someone else. They can't wait anymore.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's kind of good and bad news about it. You know, interestingly, people call it information overload, but if that's true, you'd walk into a library and die. You know, it's not information overload. It's
Yeah.
potential meaning overload. As a matter of fact, the most information-rich place is the most relaxing. It's nature.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's so relaxing, is there's so many multiple horizons and so many different pieces of input. If you wanted to go crazy, just take away all your inputs, called sensory deprivation. Let me lock you in a white room with no input. You go nuts. So kids, if they're not out in nature, their nature is social media.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually it's relaxing to them because of giving them all those different horizons and all those different inputs. But then, you know, back to what you said, I mean, a lot of times what kids are doing is they're using it as a source of stress. But come on, kids didn't you stress out? Didn't you like to be liked? You know, in school, you know, come on, there's no difference with that. It's really just, again, I guess the intensity and the speed, you know, of the input. It's changing so fast, you know,
Oh, yeah.
and because it's changing so fast, everybody goes, oh, I don't want to miss out. And most people are living in emergency, even adults are living in emergency scan mode, because they're never cleaning everything. They're never cleaning backlog up to zero, you know, which is really the GTD best practice. You know, on a regular basis, I've zeroed out all my input. I've already clarified what it is. I've thrown stuff away. I've filed things that need to. Anything that's actionable is already in my system. So I don't need to get onto social media. I don't need to get into any of that unless I just want to, you know. But if people haven't really tracked their life or haven't really managed their life, you know, in a GTD way, then they're always, you know, thinking they need to, I got to look, I can't miss, you know, what's going on. And they're trying to relieve essentially that internal pressure by trying to get as much input as they can. And there's no light at the end of that tunnel.
And you said basically that, you know, people, they have a lot of demands and they can't deal with all of those demands unless they have a methodology or something like that. And it's like a huge methodology in order to do that. And how do you incorporate your GTD in your daily basis?
Well, I just, you know, I practice what I preach. You know, anything that has my attention, I capture it. I clarify next actions if there are any, and I organize it where that stuff goes. So
Can you share like a piece of how would be a week in Dave Allen's life?
There is no standard week in my life.
No? Okay.
It's different. And by the way, I plan as little as I can get by with. You know, I like being spontaneous, just follow my intuitive hunches. I can afford to do that because I do the GTD process, so I know what I'm not doing. If I decide to take a nap, if I decide to go out for a walk with the dog, you know, it's very easy for me in just a minute or two to check every single thing else in my whole life I might, could, should, ought to do, and go, no, time to take a nap or have a beer or walk the dog or whatever. And so the freedom to be able to do that is only, you know, it's not free. You actually, a lot of people do those things to avoid all of their decision making and capturing and dealing with the stuff of their life. I'm on the other side of that. So, you know, having nothing on my mind happens to be how I spend most of my life.
Okay.
And I just follow my intuitive hunches about what I do, but I still have to work at it. I still have to get myself to do a weekly review. And you guys know that's the toughest habit that you can ever try to build. And
Yes.
is once a week.
I Mr. Allen, I thank you because I am a proud weekly reviewer since 2007.
Wow, good for you. By the way, Mr. Allen was my
really,
dad.
Really,
Mr. Allen was my dad. He died many, many years ago. When you say Mr. Allen, I go, no, he's dead.
Okay, David.
David, please, you know, come on.
David, do you think women deal with GTD different than men?
No, not in my experience.
Because in my experience, I always seen women tend to be a little bit more organized than men, and they absorb the idea of GTD easily than men.
Really? No, not my experience. There's as
Not
much
because
difference.
Not because I'm a woman.
There's as much difference. There's as much difference between two women as there is between you and your next door neighbor, or you and your cousin. It's really the individual themselves and how they relate to it. Yes, I probably to some degree women, you know, have more of a sense, oftentimes because women are often multitasking or needing to do that more than men in a way, especially if they're, you know, managing a household, managing kids, managing all that stuff. And then and especially if they have a career as well. So, you know, they're, you know, more used to having to switch roles fast. Yes. And then needing to make sure that they've got the kids' schedule on the refrigerator door, and they got to need to make sure that they handle the babysitter or whatever. And guys are just too friggin' lazy, you know, for a lot
I
of
remember
stuff.
my grandmother, when I was very, very young, she had the habit to make lists of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I've
never
found
seen my grandfathers.
Sure. Well, you don't need to if you don't need to. You know, if she was making all the lists, why should he? You know, so, you know, so a lot of it is just out of necessity. You know, what kind of behaviors people come up with in order to be able to maintain their own standards of whatever it is they're doing. But I haven't ultimately overall, I haven't seen a cultural bias. I haven't seen a gender bias. I haven't seen an age bias. Nice. People who actually interesting are the people who tend to take the GTD are the people who need it the least. They're already the most organized, aspirational, positively focused folks. It's just usually because of their own creativity they've created outside their own system. And so they're feeling out of control because they threw themselves out of their own control. And so they're the people that are initially probably most attracted to GTD, are the most productive already. Kind of paradox.
Oh yeah. And one of the things that I would ask you, it's what do you think is the hardest thing to, you know, to develop in GTD? What was the habit is the most difficult one to develop using GTD? And I think you already asked that question, right? Is the weekly review or not?
Well, the biggest habit is keeping stuff in your head. Your head is just a crappy office. And most people have a high addiction to keeping stuff in your head. It gives you a false sense of control. It's a false sense of control. Control is the biggest addiction, by the way. Keeping your world under control or keeping your life under control is the heaviest addiction that people have. And you feel so vulnerable if you get stuff, if you just unload everything and take a look at it. You know, it really challenges you to deal with, You know, what are all the commitments, all the things you've told yourself you would, could, should, need to, ought to do? And most people don't even, they kind of want to hide that from themselves, you know, as opposed to becoming conscious and consciously keeping track of all of it. That's the biggest issue that most people have. I mean, as you know, writing things down is just step one. And then, you know, the avoiding making next action decisions about things that have their attention, avoiding having a trusted organization system. And then, to your point, avoiding reviewing and keeping it current. You know, those are all reasons people fall off this wagon or don't do it. So it is a simple set of behaviors, but they're not free, and you're not born doing them. You actually have to learn them, and they're like a muscle you have to train.
This is like martial art, because you have to, you know, in the beginning do the moves exactly what the training saying you to do, and after that you're gonna improve yourself by yourself, and at the end you already incorporate all the martial art, and then you can improve yourself, you can improve your art, right?
Well, it's like a martial art because in karate, there are no beginning moves in karate.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a kick. There's a side kick. The side kick is the side kick. There's not a beginning side kick. The side kick is a side kick. And you can either do it like a white belt or you can do it like a black belt. So there are no beginning moves in GTD. You either keep it in your head or you don't. You either decide the next action or you don't. There's no beginning moves. They're just the moves. Just that if you're really, really good at it, you do these easily, and you keep this current, and you do them on the front end instead of letting things pile up on you without making these decisions and handling it.
Got it. Yeah. This is really good. So I have some questions here, some quick questions, and the first one, what is the best or most worthwhile investment you ever made, as far as productivity and as far as habit or something related to that?
Well, you know, productivity really is about just producing desired results. So but in order to produce a desired result, you first of all have to decide what is the desired result. So what does done mean? What is done, you know, getting things done? Well, first of all, what does done mean? And then what does doing look like? So outcome and action are the zeros and ones. You can't divorce those two things sit together. Interestingly enough, they require two different parts of your brain. The outcome is the visionary part, the forebrain that can make something up, have an image of the outcome they want. But the limbic part of the brain is the one that actually gets things done. It actually moves. It gets you out the door. It gets you doing things, active, whatever. So what's the next action uses another part of your brain. So it's a challenging thing. Once you learn both of those things, and again, it's a cognitive muscle that you need to train. When you get an email called, well, wait a minute, what do I need to do about this? Wow, and will that one thing finish this? If not, now I have something I need to keep track of as an outcome that I need to go to, as well as what's the next action I need to take. So I think understanding those two elements, you know, what are you trying to accomplish? Great, what's the next step? Come on, that makes every meeting, you know, if you're not starting a meeting with, I go, well, what are you trying to accomplish, by the way, by what time? I wouldn't even go, because you don't know how to frame the conversation or how to act or behave in the meeting if you don't know what the outcome is. And, you know, if you've ever been in a meeting and people talked and they 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 talked, and then they walk out going, I hope something ought to happen. I just hope it's not me, because somebody didn't say, well, wait a minute, what did we just decide? And what's the next step and who's doing it? So those two things, and being able to marry both of those things together and feel as comfortable deciding what's the outcome here. And, you know, my mission in life really, and maybe one of the biggest things that I really discovered in the last few years, is that the mission of my work with GTD is to create a world where there are no problems, there are only projects. You only call something a problem if you actually assume or think that it could or should be different or better. You're just not involved in making it better. So whatever either of you think is a problem right now, what's the project? What's your desired outcome? Resolve it, clarify, decide if there's actually anything you can do about it, finish it, put it to bed. Wait a minute, why is that on your mind? That's pretty subtle stuff. you know, and very challenging for most people to step up to that plate, you know, and get in the driver's seat of their life instead of being victim of it. But if you've still got a piece of paper sitting on your desk, you haven't decided what to do with it, you're the victim of that piece of paper. It owns you. You don't own it.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole methodology was, how do I get in the driver's seat of my life about everything that's got my attention? And that's, you know, I wouldn't say that's any one thing. That really just kind of emerged over these years as I really uncovered and found why this was so powerful. As simple as it sounds, it's a very, very powerful methodology.
Yeah, definitely it is. So like changed my life. So right now I'm here in the US, living here. So I have my company, and all of this I did definitely using all the GTD methodology. So
where are you in the US?
In Orlando.
Ah, okay.
Oh yeah, in Orlando. Yeah. So another question is, what advice would you give to a smart driven college student about entering the real world, like to the millennials?
Read Getting Things Done.
Definitely, this is one.
You know, that's it. And, you know, by the way, we have a new book out now. It's called Getting Things Done for Teens, for teenagers. So, you know, that,
and what
really,
is the difference? What is the difference? The traditional GTD?
Nothing in the methodology, just the examples. You know, an executive, when they come back from a board meeting, needs to empty their briefcase and the business cards they collected and the notes they took and decide what it means. A 10-year-old or a 12-year-old needs to empty his or her pack when they come home from school, so that they make sure that they have the note that mom needs to sign.
Definitely.
But so it's the same principles, just, you know, just applied in different, you know, at different ages and the kinds of things that they're involved in. But the principles are the same. We've had kids that were raised from the very beginning, from the day they were born, by GTD parents. So the kids just think that way. You know, and they just write their own ticket in terms of walking into life. But the truth is, you know, as soon as you leave high school, you know, mom is no longer your trusted system. So if you haven't been trained how to do this, you know, you're walking out into the fire hose of life. It's going to hit you in the face. And if you don't have good systems and good processes, see, when a baby, you know, can't manage itself, so it gets fed. At some point, it feeds itself. At some point, you know, you have to handle its bathroom stuff. Then at some point, it handles it. And at some point, you have to dress it. And at some point, it has to dress itself. At some point, you know, you then helping with homework. At some point, they have to do that themselves. So as a kid grows up, it goes through these various stages of having to then take on their own accountability for how they manage themselves, right? And it's an incremental process. It just, most people are not that conscious that that's what they need to do. And then what are the stages they need to go through so that they're managing, you know, all the aspects of their life, you know.
Awesome. That's really good. It's really good. Really good. It's really good piece of advice. So buy GTD and start reading it. So guys, if you were a millennial, just start reading GTD. This is the first step. And then okay, you're going to be okay.
And if you have kids, that's a good idea to start with GTD too, a book for kids.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Well, people have often asked, how young
kids.
Can somebody be that gets GTD? I said, well, how old does a kid need to be to understand, hey, what would you like to do at the party, at your birthday party? How would you like it to be? Well, great. What's the next step? As soon as they're old enough to understand those questions and come up with some sort of an answer, that is GTD. That's what it's about.
Okay. And when you feel like overwhelmed, unfocused for some reason, what do you do? What is the outcome when you were on those days that you were not feeling so focused and not feeling so like that you have your ideas all clear? What do you do?
Well, it can't be pen and paper. That's the first thing. Get stuff out of your head. Write down what's bothering you, what's on your mind, what are you doing? You know, what's got your attention.
Yeah, I think we have a little noise from your microphone. So I don't know what. Oh yeah. So now
is it okay now?
Yes. Now actually,
you're breathing into your mic.
Yeah, I think you're breathing right directly in your mic.
Is it okay now?
Oh yeah, better. So you were saying, can you continue?
Was that me?
Oh no, you were saying that you when you have a day that you were not feeling focused, you just
Just
try
write
to write.
write stuff down,
Mm-hmm.
or take a rest, leave it all, go for a walk, go for a run, go move around, do something like that. That helps.
Awesome.
Clean a drawer. You know,
Yes.
do something that kind of gets you back in the driver's seat, you know, of getting things under control.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome. This is really good. This is really good. Pia, do you have any other question?
I'm keeping notes. Writing some very interesting things, some high points of our conversation. I like very much about your life mission with DTD to create a world with no problems but projects.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great lesson our listeners should learn now, and I'm thinking about it right now. I like it very much.
Definitely. Yeah,
No
definitely.
problems, just projects.
It doesn't make life easy. If it was easy, you'd never grow or expand or, you know, or express yourself really. So you challenge is really a good thing. You just want to make sure you're in the driver's seat instead of victim of it. So that's what that is. So GDD doesn't make life easy. As a matter of fact, you don't even have to like your life to get it off your mind. So I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm not a rah-rah kind of guy. I'm just giving people information. You know, you want a clear head. How you use a clear head is up to you. You know, a lot of people use it to be more creative. A lot of people use it to be more strategic. A lot of people use it to be more present and loving with their kids. A lot of people use it to cook better spaghetti or hit a better golf ball, you know, or have, you know, make it easier to have a difficult conversation, you know, but I guarantee you, if they implement these principles or these techniques, it'll give you more space. How you use the space is quite individual to the people.
Definitely. This is really
It's
good.
very important to pick good projects too, because we have to learn how to say no sometimes to all the demands that come to us.
Sure.
I guess GTD helps us to choose good projects to with your weekly review and monthly review. Sometimes you analyze all your demands and say that's the right time to let it go. I don't need it anymore.
Yep.
Yes,
It's
yes,
nice to see
definitely.
everything in front of you. This is my life now. How can I shrink my life and make it only with good purpose?
Yep. Well said.
Yeah. This is it. So yeah, we are just in the end of our talking. So I'm stoked here because a lot of great piece of advice here from you, David. Thank you so much for sharing with us all the things. And yeah, so I would like you to give to the audience your last words in our show. And I hope this is not the last time that we talk. I hope that we can engage with you here in the show again. But yeah, just say the last words to the people here.
Sure. Oh, well, just, you know, this is easy to do. Doesn't happen automatically. It's easy to learn. It can make a huge difference in terms of what you do. If you're in Brazil, you know, my partner there gives public trainings around this stuff. That's a great way to be involved if you want. It's called Daniel. There's the company. If you go onto our website, gettingthingsdone.com, and look at all of our partners around the world and look under Brazil, you'll see the information for Call Daniel. You know, my good buddy Thais Godino is, you know, master trainer for Call Daniel and a coach, you know, doing, you know, great work in Brazil as well. So delighted. I'm very much looking forward to visiting Brazil myself.
Awesome. Have you ever been there?
I've never been, not yet. So
okay, this is a really good place. Yeah.
Yay. So thanks very much for your invitation. Enjoyed the conversation.
Oh yeah, thank you for you know, accepting it. So for us was huge. Was
Very
a
productive. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, it was really very productive conversation. Like a lot of great pieces of advice in less than 40 minutes, right? I think 45 minutes. So it was really good. So thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to having you again here. And what is so you said your website, you already said your website, and what is the other channels that the listeners, the audience can find you?
Well, there's always my book, but they can, you know, I'm GTD Guy on Twitter, and I'm D Allen 45 on Instagram, and you know, there's a Facebook page for me, so forth. So I'm kind of all over. Just do a Google search for David Allen and GTD, and you'll come up with a million places you could go.
Definitely,
Very
definitely.
good.
Yeah, and also just a curiosity fact. So you have a pile there, right behind you. What is that pile about?
Oh, all the books.
Yes.
Yeah, those are all all the different translations of getting things done,
Oh,
and my other
Awesome.
as well. So
Awesome. You have like translations in Chinese, in Korean, and a lot of different
Lithuanian,
languages.
very
and
good.
Spanish, and Japanese, and French, and you know,
This is
German,
really
and
good.
Dutch, and all that.
Awesome. Awesome. And where do you live right now?
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam. Okay.
Hmm.
And just curiosity, why Amsterdam?
We love the city. It's a great place. Quality of life here is fabulous. It's still, especially these days, it's so nice to be in such an open, globally focused city, and it's beautiful. And it's gorgeous. So,
Awesome.
uh, no, we love it.
Awesome. This is really good. This is really good. Again, thank you so much, David, for your presence here in our show. In was really good. Thank you for accepting the invite. And as I already said, so I hope to see you again here in the show with different questions and in a different perspective. So I want to update you about my experiment to trying to be more productive in the next 2 months. and
Sure.
and yeah, and let's talk again.
Okay, will do. Thank you,
Okay, have
folks.
a good one.
You too.
Thank you very much, David.
My pleasure.
See you.